Hello and welcome to the Blue Shadow Podcast. My name is Joey,
I am Dan.
and today we are talking about episode 4 of Star Wars Skeleton Crew titled Can't Say I Remember No at Attin. Dan, you have been a little bit hotter on Skeleton Crew than I have been. What do you think about this episode? Just overall.
Overall, I thought it was really good. Went into it after quite a little cliffhanger from last week, and I will say it delivered. Not quite to where we thought it would,
It
but
went pretty much where I thought it would.
well, look at you.
I will say I've mentioned previously that I've been, I like the show. I think it's really good, but it's not quite grabbed me yet. But I think this episode is doing wonders for me. This is easily my favorite episode yet. I think, getting through the setup and this we've talked about like how these are basically just like long elongated movies. So getting into what is probably now kind of like the second act of a
Hmm.
movie metaphorically or of the season. I'm attached to the characters. We get time with the characters kind of not on the run, I guess, in a sense. I think
Hmm.
it was very, very strong, and I think it's, allowing me to form my bonds with the characters that I want to, especially Neil.
Yeah. Now this was a Neil lover's dream
It
this week.
wasn't. And we, for Skeleton Crew, the structure we've been going with here is starting out with just talking about our thoughts on the characters. We can just dive right into that with talking about Neil.
Hmm.
Go ahead, have at it.
Oh, my boy Neil. Um, where to start with Neil? First of all, he's very humanized this week, and we get to really see Neil's qualities really shine through, especially which others perceive as weakness. And that's one of the big themes throughout this whole episode is Neil's wisdom
I like
and
that.
showing how peace is kind of necessary and it's not impossible.
And I think that like I like that's married with the realism of like, yeah, this whole society isn't going to just magically be like everything's fine now because Neil said so. But I
Hmm.
think Neil's actions and worldview and, you know, way that he carries himself will have downstream effects on this planet, which I think is great.
Yes.
Um, I really liked getting to see like how this whole time he has been kind of the most timid, and I like that they're not backing away from him being timid while also getting to show his courage and be himself.
Hmm.
My favorite moment was when he gave the like hungry kids his food. I thought it was just so nice.
Yeah.
And like really like I feel like a lot of times with characters you like hear them say things, but you don't always see them like back it up. But I think this,
Hmm.
before he even got to get into his whole worldview, put it all out there at the very beginning even, which
Right.
is awesome.
No hesitation.
No. I like
And
he wasn't even
I think he's the only one of the four kids who would do that.
maybe so, but I would say definitely without hesitating.
Right. I think Fern would split it with the kids. They like,
When wouldn't even notice the kids?
right.
I don't know, but KB's a wild card. She probably would be sharing.
She would do something weird in a good way. She'd probably do the exact math to make sure everybody gets the correct amount based on their proportion.
Yeah, 1/4 portion. So that I'm sure as we go through our little, step by step of the episode, we'll get to talk more about Neil. But I did love focusing on him. Is there any other of the main cast that you wanted to kind of touch on? I have a few that I want to talk about as well. So fire away with
I
whoever you want to talk about next.
think we might share some. First one I talk about is Fern.
I think it's a great
Um,
one.
we finally saw the cracks in her armor come to really come out today,
Yeah,
especially towards the end of the episode.
yes. And I think that in order for like, we talked about at the very beginning about how all these kids are going to have to go on different journeys, but to become the best versions of themselves. And I think that this had to happen for Fern in order to move past like her weaknesses. I'm surprised it happened
Mhm.
this early though.
It is, we are halfway done.
That is true, but I feel like they tend to, with some of these shows, backload a lot of stuff and don't give you much
Mm.
time with the resolution, where I feel
Yeah.
like we're going to get to work through that. But
I
halfway done
feel
is kind of crazy.
It is. It went quick. And as somebody who really likes the show, it's going too quick.
8 episodes isn't long enough. You know, I
No,
think that,
but
but
but I feel like we're gonna be getting a second season of this.
I think I'm not speaking on that at this moment in time because I got
Don't
burned
want
last time I wanted one.
to. I don't want to jinx it.
No. Um, I thought Fern was wonderful. I really, I don't want to like spend a whole lot of time on him, but I think Wim is getting there. I think, you know, he gave KB the high five, which I thought was nice, and that was a cute little
Hmm.
awkward moment. But then, of course, he runs and picks up the biggest gun that he possibly can, and it's like, we're going back. But that Fern having her breakdown, I think, kind of pushed Wim to like see what he needed to be for himself as well, which was
Hmm.
kind of nice. Like she was like the catalyst for him to begin his kind of journey of change.
Yeah. And just going back to Wim at the shooting range, he knew how to work it, which I thought was really funny. So that means he probably did it off camera and knew what the results were going to be.
Yeah, I don't know if someone told him what was how to do it, but yes, he was turning the knob. He knew what he was doing. There's no doubt there. But yeah, no, it's pretty goofy, but I love it.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about Jod. Do you want to do that now, or do
Yes.
you want to kind of do it towards the end?
Let's do it towards the end because
Let,
it'll wrap up.
okay, so we'll save Jod and SM33 because they're kind of we got spent not very much time with them, but I think they have a large portion of the plot and stuff that we're really going to discuss, so we can kind of
Right.
save them.
I'll say
Any th
overall plot line, plot wise, those two were in it very, not very much, but
but when they were there, it was meaningful.
every single second was.
Hmm. Um, any thoughts quickly on the new characters? And I don't
Uh,
think these are going to be like series regulars or anything, but
I liked Hannah.
she was
Um,
great, and she was a great counterpart to Neil and like his worldview, and like I thought they would. That was very nice of them to pair those two together.
yeah. Um, the dad, I forget his name. I'm so sorry.
Me
I
too.
even
That's
rewatched it today.
let's see. I have the Wikipedia up. He kind of creeped me out. I wasn't quite ready for him.
I
General Strix. Does that sound right?
Something with an S. I didn't know what to think of him the whole time. I thought he was gonna backstab them, but I don't. I think he was just weird.
I think he was. I think he was not really prepared to see visitors. He clearly just fed them to the wolves without any
Yeah.
care in the world.
Hmm.
But yeah, it is what it is. I don't think we'll see much more of him at all. So we won't
I
spend too
don't.
much time on it.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, and that's okay. That does kind of bring us to our, just walking through the episode. And last week we had some talk about. I thought we might not get back to Attin. Dan thought it's going to happen sooner, maybe even this week. And I thought they were going back. It looked just like it. I don't think
Yeah.
either of us would have guessed that we were going to what I assume are one of the 12 or whatever they said, like wonders of the Republic.
All the at planets.
I was confused at first that when I think it was SM33, it said, is it at Akron, right?
They were at Akron.
Yes.
Then there was. I'm trying to pull
A
it
whole
up to
bunch more.
see, and they all started with A's.
Yes. I saw a funny meme that was like at Akron and it was like Akron, Ohio.
So we were talking about the jewels of the Republic,
There you go. That's a term.
and it's at A2, at Atu, at Atten, at Arisia, at Aravan, at Akota, and at Akron.
I was really wondering why you were going to do that to yourself and read them, but you did a very nice job.
Thank you.
It's cool.
Um,
Do you think they all have this almost identical aesthetic sort of thing?
I think so. I This is my crackpot theory of the week. Um, I think they're all the clones of the same planet.
Like the planet itself is duplicated?
Yes.
Hmm.
I think each planet's identical in an effort to conceal something.
Oh, so like maybe if it's treasure, maybe the treasure's on one of the however many, but
Right. And they're all identical planets. Because throughout the episode, the kids were like, well, this is at Atten. And they're like, kinda. all the structures matched up because they were pointing out like, oh, this building's the school,
I mean, and it looked just like it. The house is, I mean, it looked like Fern's house, right? With the curved staircase.
right? And they even said because there was a tree in the middle of the staircase,
Uh-huh.
and
May
they
I,
said,
go ahead.
and then they said that this has been here a long, long time because of how big it is. So they definitely recognized where they were.
I would say more from I think you're on the right track with them being made to look the duplicating the planet's a little crazy, but I think the whole society is made to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a very actually astute guess as to what could be happening with why these planets are the same and everything. But so we get there and we start with one of my favorite bits of comedy with Fern telling Jod that he needs to stay in the. Actually, before we get onto the planet, I did want to bring up, did you think that it was a little strange that the ship kind of just automatically slid into like a landing sequence?
No, I think it's an old ship. Technology was, you know what they say, it was always better in the olden days. Things were built to last. So I'm
I
driving
feel like
my
that
old Toyota.
while the Onyx Cinder is a RAV4, if you will, I think it's not. I think there's something weird here, and I don't know if it was just simply our first clue that SM-33 had been here before, or if there is actually something more to like the connection between this ship and these planets.
I like that. I think it's because SM-33 has been here before,
And I
whether
don't.
he knows it or not.
Yeah, and he was kind of on the fritz this episode. We'll get there, but I did want to. The part that I was mentioning earlier was when Fern told Jod to stay on the ship and SM-33 initiated his babysitting sequence. That was comedy
Yes,
gold.
it was.
I really enjoyed it. Um, then we can do the like the kids side of things, and we already did a decent chunk of it. But
Yeah.
the kids go off and they're discovering that this is basically the same place. Did you think that I don't know if I have a feeling about this yet, but do you think there's any significance to the statue with no head?
Yes, only because that's the one thing that they didn't recognize.
Yeah, and like they specifically called it out. It wasn't like they just walked past it.
Yeah.
Like, is this person,
The supervisor.
is it the supervisor? Is the supervisor like the same of all these planets at one point? I don't know. It's weird.
Or I saw a theory online about the supervisor,
I
which we
think
can discuss at the
I've seen
end.
a few actually, so we can definitely go on that. Um, we then meet our two tribes, the Troik and the what was the other one?
Yeah, something
Hatton.
with an H.
I got the Wikipedia again. Hatton.
Hatton, yes. Like the Hatfield and McCoys.
It had a very and I know you haven't quite gotten here yet, but there's a dynamic in The Last of Us 2 that this really reminded me of. And, it's like, how is this what a post-apocalyptic society is supposed to be like? And I think it kind of does comment on how they're using like this Earth-like atmosphere to, you know, kind of put our perspective into the Star Wars world, which is really interesting. And the fact
Mhm.
that their post-apocalypse kind of looks like a post-apocalypse that we would expect from like our media is kind of intriguing. Kind of like Mad Max almost a little.
Yeah. And as we were the Hatton in that scene when we got introduced to them, just have to call out the droid tank.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Did you think that there was stuff in this episode that kind of looked more like maybe Imperial?
The helmets really
Yeah,
looked Imperial, but then at the end, Hana's helmet looked like US World War II through Vietnam style helmet.
I feel like that would be maybe like they do model their props off of like real things, so maybe that's just that. But like, does the fact that
Like,
it looks like an Empire thing, but these planets are supposed to be like isolated, but then the her dad mentioned like trading with for pelts or something. Like, there's just so
yeah,
much weird going on.
right. And that they definitely traded with somebody and are actively trading with somebody because they said that they trade for ammo.
Yeah, it's very strange. And I again, I don't know if this is something that we're gonna get like brought to speed on, or if it's something that where we're gonna leave this planet and it's gonna be like a place I don't want to go back there. But anyway, that kind of takes us. We talked a lot about the camp and the that's at their school, or that version of their school, and they were a lot of conversation about like the kids showing their courage and working through Neil,
Hmm.
being his courage. Is there anything else you want to talk about that? We spent a decent amount of time on that already, but is there anything from those scenes you want to talk about?
Ooh, I don't think so. Other than that really large gun. I don't know what that was for yet.
Yeah, no, I suspect we're not, and we'll wait till the end for this, but I don't, we're gonna see
I
the gun because she showed him the gun, and I don't think we're
I
leaving this planet immediately.
I don't think we see the gun again on this planet.
Oh, see, that's some forward thinking there
I think we see it again, just not
on
on
At
Ad
Atten.
Akron.
Hmm. So we'll kind of continue on after, Neil has his heart to heart and they all kind of do their shooting practice and everything. The kids are essentially put on the front lines of a battle and go into war. And that's where I think we have a really nice moment with Neil realizing like the power of friendship and stuff. And we'll talk about the themes and everything. But I just thought that the connection between Neil and what is her name again, Dan?
Hina.
Hannah, Neil and Hannah was just such a like a shining light in this episode, and it really drew me in. And it made that terrible moment that was really scary for all of them. Like it gave Neil his courage that it was already in there, but he needed to just like have it awakened.
And I love Neil's honesty. The other three kids were trying to hide it, and he's like, "No, I'm terrified."
We all
But
need a little more Neil.
yeah, with a
Yeah, no,
sprained trunk.
I loved how often they referred to his trunk. It
Somebody
was very
grabbed it at one
intriguing.
point.
I think Jod like pulled him by it.
Yeah.
Um, if I at this moment, if I were to purchase an action figure from Skeleton Crew, it would certainly be the Neil one.
Would that even be an action figure or like a stuffed plushie?
There's currently only an action figure, but I only imagine that it's a matter of time before Neil is on every aisle at Target with little plushies.
Yeah, Neil's species is still unidentified.
Yeah, no, and they have confirmed that it's not an Ortolan, the same species as Max Rebo, so who knows what's going on there. That then kind of takes us to the mirror part of the episode where we see Jod being left with SM-33 who's babysitting him. And we cut to Jod, digging through all the kids' stuff that they've kind of pulled together.
Hmm.
Another reference to the holiday special, which was awesome. But he, I think he's really starting to piece together that there's really something here with him finding Wim's credits or data reads, it's the term that he's been using.
Hmm.
And what did you think of like there's clearly something going on with SM-33 in addition to all the stuff that we found out at the end. Like why is he malfunctioning so much? Is it just because he's old? Did Jod
I
not
think
really
it's
fix him properly?
no, I think it's because he has his friend.
The rat?
Yeah, I think the rat's messing up his circuits in there.
Oh my God.
Because, well, seriously, anytime he was going something serious, where he's finally starting to get his memory back, who pops out of the eye socket?
The rat.
Yeah, chewing
That's
on
an int-
wires.
that's an intriguing idea, and I think that there could be something to that. But this is where we learn that we're not on At Atten. We're on a planet called At Akron, and we he's like, okay, we gotta go. They start to leave, and then we see all the warriors. And I would say maybe my favorite moment of this whole episode is when Jod drops to his knees and says, "Just shoot me." I greatly enjoyed that.
Yeah,
So good. Um,
yeah.
and then the next time we see Jod, we meet up with the kids rather than like fighting the Hatton, the enemies. The kids end up seeing Jod, SM-33, and a bunch of EOPs that were technically stolen from um, the the Troiks.
Yes.
I have a few questions for you, and again, I ask questions so that I can work through my own feelings selfishly. But do you think? I think there are two options that happen here. Number one, Jod is being truthful, and he, got taken there, gave him the credits. Or two, Jod managed to find a way to actually like fight these these bad guys and like actually, get out. Like maybe he caused chaos and released the Eops or something.
Hmm.
What do you think is more likely? I really don't know in my
I
mind
don't
what I
know
think right now.
because he comes out and he gets his information, and it's like I didn't know that the Hattons would have known that.
And like what good are the credits going to do them in
Well,
this society?
well, if they are able to trade,
Yeah, true, 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 true.
which we know they can.
That is in fact true. I don't know. I think part of me thinks that he's being dishonest because Star Wars doesn't always have a we're not going to show you sort of mentality.
Hmm.
Like I feel like we would have seen what he was doing if he was being truthful. And there might be nuggets of truth in there, but I feel like there's definitely something going on here.
I,
Go ahead.
yeah, I agree.
You don't trust him.
I don't trust SM-33.
Oh, we know. I still think until we get up to the tower, which we'll get to, I think I don't think we have any reason to not at this moment trust SM-33. But
The thing that threw me off, going just backtracking a little, was when they were on the ship and SM-33 catches him, calls him a thief, which he is. But then Jod talked his way out of it, being like, no, 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 it's just me.
and
Do you
that
find
that
that weird?
I found that whole exchange weird where he kind of like slumps over and Jod's like walking him like he's like a grandpa.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely something on the fritz with him.
Hmm.
And I think we'll talk about my thoughts with him when we get to the end. But last thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the supervisor's tower. What do they call it in this?
The sunken archive or something.
Something like that. But
I think it's the sunken archive.
I wanted to talk about Neil and I'm so sorry. What is it? What is the little girl's name again?
Hina.
You're so much better at this than I am.
Fallen Sanctum.
Fallen Sanctum. So before we get into the Fallen Sanctum, we see Neil and Hannah share a
I'll give you
very
a
nice
dollar if you
moment.
can spell it.
Hannah,
Yeah.
Haina.
So close. Hayna.
Oh, I should have known Star Wars. Like, and we talked about this last week. I did clarify the spelling. Kim, the owl
Hmm.
lady, is KY''HM or something like that. It's the most Star Wars spelling of Kim. But um, anyway, that conversation between Hannah and Neil, it was
Hmm.
just so nice. And I think that we talked about it like him planting the seeds for a better future on that planet. But I thought that little kiss was cute. And then she
Hmm.
did a cool backflip on her way back.
I thought that was so funny.
It
And
was.
I audibly said parkour.
It was parkour. That's exactly what that was. But anyway, we get up into the tower. That's where Fern has her little breakdown that was stimulated by the fact that there are all these coordinates to these planets that we were mentioning earlier. But at Attin's is destroyed. And Fern is upset by this and everything, but we learn that SM-33, the last time he was there with his captain, was the person who did this.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of fills in a few gaps in the sense that, like, the theory was floating around maybe the pirates are the ones that started at Atten, but clearly that's not the case because this is all like interconnected.
Hmm.
I think that this also kind of shows the I don't know. I think the fact there's actually something at Atten is what I
Right.
got from this. Like it's not just like a myth because like this pirate ship is there.
Pirate ship's there. Uh, SM-33 has been there or knows enough about it
Hmm.
where it had to have his memory wiped.
And that's I think we can now bring up kind of the turn that you did correctly foresee something going on with SM-33, and that's where Fern very cleverly remembers that she would tell her nanny droid to forget things, and
Hmm.
I think that's she's annoyed with SM-33 the whole episode saying I can't say I remember no at Atten. Did I get that right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Um, and she's realizing he's saying he's not allowed to say it, not that he doesn't remember it. And then I thought it was really intriguing that he kind of works his way through like he's the one that destroyed it. He was here. The captain killed everyone, and he just the captain told him to kill anyone who asks about it. And that's where we see this transformation and he gets all like big and stuff.
Yeah.
That was scary for
It's like
this
he was
type
wearing,
of show.
and they shot it like he was wearing a GoPro over on his shoulder too.
Uh-huh. It was really cool. I think they did a nice job with highlighting it, really making you feel like you're in danger. Like in Star Wars, we see so much like this is nothing like you're standing in a hallway with Darth Vader. But they made you feel really in jeopardy, especially because these kids aren't a Jedi equipped to fight. But this
And
is where
they've
we
shown how
good.
strong SM-33 is in episode
Yeah.
2.
Uh-huh.
Like that was very intentional to show that he's just not a old droid. He is a very capable fighter.
And Jod knew that he should be scared very early
Yeah.
on in that scene, which was really cool. But this is where we get to see Neil give his like bring his moment full circle, demonstrate his courage, and prevent SM-33 from harming Fern. And he throws I think a rock or something at him. And
Hmm.
then as SM-33 is lumbering at him, Jod does a slick little, hit the kill switch sort of button and hits the switch on SM-33's back to shut him down. We see,
Hmm.
them all come and check on Neil, who's like underneath SM-33 perfectly fine. And then he faints, and that's where the episode ends.
Yeah. Good ending.
Good ending. I'm like ready for more, which is how I knew that this show was kind of grabbing me. I was like, oh, come on. But I really, really liked I felt like what I'd been struggling with is we were setting everything up in order to make these leaps have satisfying conclusions. But for me, this episode having like satisfying, like if not full on story, but thematic arcs, like close, especially with Neil, I think it
Hmm.
was very, very strong. And I really loved it.
Yeah. No, it was a they like you said, they brought a lot of things full circle this episode. And then for others, we started the circle like we're getting to see Fern's journey. Wim's still doing whatever he's doing.
Causing trouble.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me to I want to do a few things. I'm going to do first themes and then predictions for next week, and then we can wrap it up here. Um, the themes that I really want to talk about, there are two of them, and you can add on to that, of course, as you see fit. But the first theme is like like courage and what is courage. It's not necessarily just running in and fighting without thinking about it. And then
Right.
the second is like, you know, doing self-reflection. I think a lot of characters did self-reflection in this episode, and I think that those
Mhm.
are important. So is there anything else you want to add, or do you want to just start teasing those two things apart and see what happens?
We could just start teasing those two things because then I'm sure we'll get little spin-offs.
Find about like seven things on the way. I want to start with that courage one, and I think this is all through the lens of Neil. Like he really describes his worldview of like it's not good to fight. There are better ways around it. Like if you really think about it, there's no real reason to fight. And I love that. I think that aligns with like my personal philosophy about a lot of things. And
Hmm.
it like it just really resonated with me. And then the fact that he gets to show his courage despite being honest about his fear and his thoughts on fighting, both in going up to the front lines at the fake battle that was going to happen and in defending his friend from SM-33, I think we really, you know, get to bring that home. So, what did you think about that idea?
No, I really agree with that idea because Neil can feign ignorance here and say, because he has no other experience than peace. I mean, at Atten's just, and it's almost a utopia.
Hmm.
And like you said, when he had to fight, he was able to do it. So
To the best of
that's
his
a good one.
ability.
He did exactly what he needed to do.
He did. And then you want to touch on self-reflection a little? You can take the lead on that one.
Like kind of what we've been discussing over the past couple weeks. All four of the main characters, five if we include Jod, are going to go through some form of personal growth. Today we saw Neil. We're starting to see Fern, KB, Jod, and Wim are all on the way.
I agree, and I'm looking forward to learning more, particularly about KB. But I think that Fern kind of getting the ball rolling here. She is but she's been positioned as the leader or positioned herself as the leader kind of. And I think that's going to kind of trickle down, which is really nice.
Hmm.
Anything else to add on themes?
Probably not on themes, just more on like comments.
Fire away, I guess.
Jod going through Neil's things. Not Neil. Oh my goodness. What's Whim? I think that's gonna be the theme is resourcefulness there a little bit. Um,
Thriftiness,
just a bargain hunter.
dishonesty.
Yeah,
I
he's a
think
Jedi.
that, yeah, he said I never said that. I think that that is kind of setting up, it's foreshadowing his turn eventually, hopefully for the better.
Or going back to how do we think he acquired the animals? Do we think he used mind tricks? Because we know he can use the Force to some degree.
That would be kind of cool. I hadn't thought of that.
And we're just going to see the credits later on.
I think that is a very promising concept. I want to talk about predictions. So I want to lead us into that, but I want to say we kind of stopped talking about your initial prediction of SM33 turning on the kids. And I do stand by the fact that I think that it is different than what you were initially pitching, but I think we have the same end result. I personally think that someone, maybe KB, maybe someone from that tribe potentially, I think SM33 is going to get fixed. And I think it's going to be instrumental to getting them to Attin. What do you think
Hmm.
about that and where we're going with SM33 and his turn of sorts?
I think KB's going to fix them. She even said it's only would she say a couple hundred
So,
thousand circuits or
yeah,
something? Some
she likes her
obscene
number.
number.
She's like C3PO.
Yeah, except cooler. No,
Miss Leia, kind of.
SM33 is going to be a, what did you say?
I said maybe cooler, kind of, than C3PO.
Yeah. Anyway, SM33 is going to play a crucial role getting them to Aten. I think that's been set up very well so far, and
Kind
this
of the only
episode
hope
is
they have.
just the cherry on top.
Hmm.
Because hope, I mean, that's another theme. All of Star Wars has hope.
Really, really going for it there, aren't you?
I hear rebellions are built on it.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, you dropped a Force Awakens line in there, and I didn't comment on it. It's only fair. I drop a Rogue One
Which one did I do?
quarter portion.
I did, didn't I? Wow. I didn't even remember that. That brings me to another predict. One comment, then another prediction, and then we can kind of wrap it up. My comment is I like that. Like there, it doesn't necessarily make sense for there to be a map to this last planet, and I like that they're just following thread after thread that's not necessarily visible, until they
Hmm.
get to it. Where like they wouldn't have known that SM33 might have this information in his memory bank, especially because he's blatantly telling them that he doesn't. Um, without going here and getting into this tower and stuff. So
Hmm.
I like that it's kind of got this sort of like they don't know what's coming next aspect to it rather than like following a straight up map.
Yeah.
And then the next prediction I have for you is what does the next episode look like in your view?
They're going to go to one of the other planets, and I think they're going to see it looks very similar to at Akron and at Aten.
Hmm.
Probably slightly different, just in the sense of where the planet itself actually is. Like you said, this one's more in like a post-apocalyptic one. Maybe we'll get a pre-industrial revolution one. Who knows?
I feel like for me personally, I think we're gonna have to spend some time at the beginning of the next episode dealing with what happened. Maybe KB's fixing SM33. Neil's still shaking. We're gonna wake Neil up and all that. Get out of the tower. I definitely think we're leaving this planet next episode, but where
Hmm.
to? I don't know. I think they have all these coordinates of the other planets. Maybe it would make sense for them to go to it and then find, that tower probably isn't
Because I
destroyed. I
mean,
don't know.
you would think it would make sense if one tower had all of the, because if they are really identical planets, which they're implying that they're close enough,
Hmm.
because they even said when they saw the tower, oh, that's the supervisor's tower.
And these kids definitely haven't seen the supervisor's tower, like inside.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't know that it's there. But yeah, you're right. That is very logical for them to go to another planet, get the coordinates. But you're right, though, depending on how the society is, it might not be so easy for them to do that.
Well, I think we're gonna see that whoever SM-33's old crew was had the same idea.
Didn't they say that his old crew was dead? Like they all died, the captain killed them all?
Yeah, but I think that this was their last stop before Attin
But they weren't alive.
because the captain killed them all.
Yeah.
We don't know when the captain killed them all.
In that room, he said.
That's my point. So SM-33's crew worked the other planets first, ended at Akron before going to At Atten. I think
I'm not following you, but I trust that you I trust that the
I
listeners
have a
and you
thread
are
in my head.
I trust that you and the listeners are on the same page. We don't have to bring me to the same page.
Okay.
But the there's one other thing I want to talk about, and I have since lost it. I got no threads. So that all we got for today?
Well, not to end on that.
We should probably not end on that. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's very good. I am being brought up to you know, the way that I like to measure things. I think I mentioned this in like the Obi-Wan review that I did. My metric of how much I love something is how much I want to buy something from it.
mhm.
And I hope that this show makes me want to buy the Lego set, is my hope. My wife's probably going to listen to this and be like, oh, dear God, another one.
At least for, I will say, for as much of it is as this ship set, which I know you're not a fan of, just in general, they are at least spending a fair amount of time on the said ship.
Yes. And like, I have no reservations about getting the Ghost, one of my favorite ships. They just got to make me care enough, you know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else to add for this week, Dan?
No, I think next week we end at one of the other jewels of the Old Republic. Don't know which one, but I think that's our next step.
I think that's a very logical next step. And I did want to mention that just for the remainder of the series, scheduling's a little awkward. Dan and I are both kind of traveling and going to be out and about at different times for the holidays. So we are not going to release our usual weekly episodes for Skeleton Crew episodes 5 and 6. We will likely do a small recap video, kind of just quick feelings about the two episodes, and then we'll be back on track in the new year for episodes 7 and 8.
Yes, ending
Like what we
strong.
discussed, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, that unfortunately we won't have any direct immediate coverage after the episodes, but please stay
Look,
tuned for our recap.
I say stay tuned on Twitter, probably or X. We'll probably put our thoughts out, just brief thoughts,
I like that idea.
just to stay on top of it.
We gotta
Um,
we gotta argue with each other a little bit.
I know it's not fair that we argue over text
It is.
because it really is some of our best arguments.
Just screenshot those and send them. And then we will also be doing one more episode that's not a Skeleton Crew coverage for the year. Actually, two episodes. One of them is going to be a discussion review of the Lego X Mansion that's coming out this Friday, and then the following Friday, the last Friday of 2024, will be a like our favorite things of the year episode. Um,
Yes, and I'm very excited for that.
Me too. So with that, we thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate your time. Please consider giving us a like, a subscription, a review, a comment on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. Consider giving us a follow on Twitter or X at Blue Shadow Pod or on Instagram at Blue Shadow Podcast. And with that, we thank you so much for listening and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.